Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Well-Versed. I'm your host, Jazzy Cho, and today we will be learning with Andrew Kiguel, the co-founder and CEO of Tokens.com. Tokens.com is a publicly listed company that invests in metaverse real estate, DeFi, and NFT-related digital assets. Let's find out why this former investment banker believes that our future will be in the metaverse. Andrew Kiguel, hello, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So to begin, let us first get to know you. Can you tell us where you're from and how you began your career?
I live in Canada, Toronto, which is the largest city here, and I began my career as an investment banker. So I was one of those guys that put on the suit and the tie every day, went down and functioned in the world of finance for 20 years. And yeah, long time. And back in 2017, I started getting really interested in Bitcoin at the time and started trying to evolve and find ways to pivot my career. So I created a company called Hut 8. I was a co-founder. Today, Hut 8 is one of the largest, if not the largest, Bitcoin miner in North America. It trades on the NASDAQ. And so I left my banking career to become the CEO of that business. And then today, I pivoted in 2020 to create another business, which is Web3 focused. So think cool things like the metaverse and play to earn gaming. That I took public as well in 2021. So that's where I am today.
20 years in investment banking, that's a very traditional career. How did you get into Bitcoin?
I had some people come in and start talking to me about it back in 2016. And they were like, you have to look at this thing called Bitcoin. It's really cool. And just like most people, when you're presented with something new and it sounds kind of funny, internet money, I was really skeptical, really skeptical. And I brushed it aside. And then one day, I kept hearing about it. One day I said, you know what, I'm going to take a read of the white paper. I'm going to investigate this further. And just like a lot of people, I mean, if you look through a lot of the prominent names today who are supportive of Bitcoin, they all started off by saying it's a Ponzi scheme, it's garbage, rat poison, whatever else. And then you start to investigate it. You start to go through and look at the code behind it and the way it works. And you're like, this is actually quite brilliant. There's something here. And so that's how I started to pivot. And crypto is one of those things for a lot of people, which is you start researching it a little bit, and next thing you know, you just can't stop thinking about it and being curious about what you can do with it.
So your curiosity led you to hit milestones within the Web3 space. You built Hut 8 mining, and having acquired millions of dollars worth of metaverse real estate, you're known as the Metaverse Mogul.
Yeah, that was written up in I think Fortune magazine wrote something like that up, and so I don't see myself as the metaverse mogul, but it's certainly cool when I tell my kids that.
Yeah, what do your kids and your family think about everything that's going on with the metaverse Web3?
So my kids are young; they're 8 and 10, and so for them, it's seamless. They're not thinking about it in terms of, oh, there's a new thing called the metaverse. They've been playing things like Minecraft and Roblox for several years. And those are really examples of metaverses today that already have millions and millions of players. So they just see this as, oh, here's a new game. Here's a new thing for us to explore and to create. I've actually started my daughter off by giving her permission and some of our land in Decentraland and getting her to learn how to program. So what a lot of people don't know is within Decentraland, there's a builder tool, and you can go in there and choose various categories and things that you can start to put things together, like the inside of a house, and you can put, shelter around it and do various things. You can change the ground to look more Western or make it look like snow. And so what I have my kids doing now in sort of preparation for the potential future is going in there and just experimenting with all of these different tools that are there. Like, how do you build something? How do you rotate it around? I think that's a really good introduction for them beyond just playing a game. So I don't know if, again, you're familiar with Roblox. Roblox would be considered a Web 2 metaverse where kids go in, they meet other kids, and they play games. And there's an in-game spending. You could buy Robux. And so my kids are constantly knocking on my office door because I work from home. They're like, Dad, can I get some more Robux? Can I get some more Robux? because you need them in order to enhance the playability of the game. Although it's free to access, this is how they make money. The new metaverses, the Web3 metaverses like Sandbox and Decentraland and Superworld, have taken it to a different level in that you have a self-contained economy where you can go in and buy the local currency like a mana or a sand, but it's also that currency is convertible to things in the real world. Whereas for my kids playing Roblox, the Robux have to stay in the game. You spend them or you don't spend them, but they have no real world convertibility. And that's the difference to where these new metaverses are heading. They're self-contained economies that can interact with the real world economies.
How many people are actually like in these metaverses right now?
I can give you some statistics, but remember there's different types of metaverses. If you talk about Roblox and Minecraft and Fortnite, millions. If you're talking about the new metaverses, I would suspect something like Decentraland has crossed the million registered user mark, and it's growing at about 3,000% a year in terms of visitor traffic. Pretty significant. The growth rates are very, very strong, and it's like early days of social media.
Can you walk us through, let's say I want to get started in Decentraland. Like, where do I begin?
So Decentraland is one of the most popular Web3 metaverses out there right now. They're certainly the one that's live and has a lot of different events and things going on, and we can talk about that. But you would go to decentraland.org and you can have an option. You can go in as a guest player, which means takes about less than a minute. You create an avatar, you choose your hair color, your body type, what you're going to wear, if you want a mustache or sunglasses. Takes about a minute and you can start playing in the game. You're actually dropped in to the downtown Genesis Plaza and you can wander around and you can teleport to different places. If you wanted to take it to the next level and you were a crypto person, you wanted to be able to buy and spend within this virtual world, you can link it to your crypto wallet. And so that'll take a little bit more time to create that, but it might be 5 minutes instead of 1 minute. And then you can go and you can wander into this world and be more than just an observer. You can actually link it to your crypto wallet and you can buy things. You can buy NFTs, you can buy wearables. There's a gaming place where you can play in a casino. So there's lots of things that you can do. And what makes it really cool and what I think is different is when you buy an NFT within a metaverse, you can wear it, you can store it, or you can resell it. It's got that tangible value. And that's the difference between Web3. Someone gave me an interesting example the other day. When you buy a movie from Apple, okay, you go, you spend the $20, you get your movie. Do you really own that movie? Can you loan it to a friend? Can you resell it? No, you're just really buying the rights on a cloud to be able to access something. You own it, but you don't really own it. And that's the difference with Web3 and where we're heading is that you're actually able to own things. So you can go into these virtual worlds and you can buy things within them that you can loan out, you can store, you can wear, or you can sell. And that's the big difference in terms of where this new technology is headed.
There was a fashion week in the metaverse that you were heavily involved in. Can you tell us what that was exactly and how it went?
So the story goes back a little bit to last year. Our company, tokens.com, we did at the time the largest metaverse real estate purchase in history. And that was a huge estate in the fashion district of Decentraland. And Decentraland is divided up with guidelines to different neighborhoods. So there's like a club district, a museum district, and we bought in the fashion district. And the reason we bought in the fashion district is we had been having conversations with Decentraland and we knew they were going to make fashion a key focus for 2022. And so right after we bought it, we got struck an agreement with Decentraland itself for them to host the first ever Metaverse Fashion Week on our land. We participated, we helped bring some brands to the table. There were over 60 brands that participated in the show. And these were names like Dolce & Gabbana, Tommy Hilfiger, Ellie Saab, Jacob & Co. We also had the land peripheral to the show, and we were able to rent that out to other clients that wanted to participate. And we got them in to do the catwalk. We actually organized a DJ party for one client. We would design their NFTs. I'll give you one example, Forever 21. I don't know if you're familiar with that brand. I can send you a video, but we built an entire building for them and designed their NFTs and wearables. We helped them throw a party, and I'll give you some of the statistics to the show. So the Metaverse Fashion Week attracted close to 110,000 visitors. Okay, 110,000 visitors over the course of the 3 days. Forever 21, for the store that we built for them, attracted a gross amount of 6,500 people during the show, with a peak of 800 people in the store at one time. And this is a really interesting statistic. The average time spent in the store by visitors was 27 minutes. 27 minutes.
Wow, that's pretty long.
That is a long time. So I think the reason why is we're able to provide something that was far more immersive than just going to a website, right? There were things you could do in the store. There was music, there were wearables and NFTs that you could look at. That's a significant statistic because, like I said, that's longer than most people might spend on a website, and it's comparable to how long somebody might spend in a physical store. It sort of proves out that model. People can go into the metaverse and they can engage with your brand in a way that's very different from the physical world and very different than a website. It's a new medium that we're talking about here. And I remember having a conversation with someone who ended up being a client. This is a huge global brand. One of the executives said to me, "Oh, well, if we create this virtual store, are we going to make money?" And I said, "It's a good question, but it's the wrong question. You'll make some money, but you're thinking about this the wrong way. It's not like a virtual store where you should be focused on that." So if you don't do this, how is this new demographic, this new generation going to know who you are in 5 years? Because all your competitors are going to do it. This is a way for you to advertise your brand different than any other way that you can. Today, kids, like my daughter, she's starting to learn, like, what's the difference between, like, this sounds funny, but what's the difference between the Gap and Gucci? We take it for granted. You probably can go, take a trip out to Rodeo Drive every once in a while, but most kids, this new generation, they're buying online. The catalog is no longer dropped off at the door. They're learning about what means what from social media and places like the metaverse. And if you're not there advertising and teaching people what your brand is about, you may be left behind.
You're saying this next generation will be on the metaverse no matter what.
1,000%. They're already there. Dolce & Gabbana, one of the largest luxury brands in the world, decided to do something that was like really fun and engaging in a fashion show during the Metaverse Fashion Week. It's about building your brand. It's about accessing these people. So as I said to that one executive team, in 5 years, they know who you are. Today, how does a brand relate to this new group of people? How do they express what they represent? So that if you're wearing Gucci or Balenciaga or Polo, how do that person know where that fits in the status of other clothing brands? Because really, that's what a lot of clothing is. It's about, what is the status? What is the message I'm trying to deliver to people? And by being in the metaverse, it opens up a new revenue stream for them, that they can sell these digital wearables, which is really like merchandise. And number two, as this generation gets older and has more and more spending power, these will be the brands that stick out in their minds, that they will continue to be loyal to and grow with.
Let's say I have a fashion brand, but I want to have a presence in the metaverse. How do I get started?
So there's two ways. If you wanted to do it yourself, you could go through the process of buying land and figuring out how to build things. Or you can come to a company like ours. Our subsidiary Metaverse Group provides A to Z services in the metaverse. And so we have dozens of clients right now, and well over 100 people that we're talking to. But essentially, you come to us and you say, "This is my vision, this is my dream of what I would like to see." We then help you build that. And that's anywhere from programming it, building it, providing the renderings. We can create NFTs for you to sell. We do the whole thing, and we package it up and we give it to the client. And that's how we get compensated. We own land across 10 metaverses right now, not just Decentraland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot. And you can come to us and say, "Okay, this is the type of audience I'm looking to reach. This is what I'm trying to build." We can come back to you and provide you with a full plan and proposal to say, "This is how we would do it. here's our suggestions and help you to execute on your vision.
How did you come up with this idea?
It just evolved. So the original idea was to buy land. And the reason I want to buy land is I'm always, within our company, which is Web3, find assets that will appreciate in value. And because for your audience, within each metaverse, the land available is finite. It's not like you can just keep building it. It's not like the internet where you can have, millions and millions of web pages. In a place like Decentraland, there's only 45,000 parcels available for development. The city doesn't grow.
Oh.
And so if you can have a bunch of contiguous parcels, it allows you to do things like hold a fashion show. We started off by buying the land. Then people started coming to us and saying, oh, can you help us do this? Can we rent your land? Can we have the fashion show? And then when we were doing the fashion show, people came to us and said, oh, we have an idea. Can you build this for us? And so the business really just evolved from the demand that we've been seeing from clients asking us to do these things for them.
So as the client, can I buy the land from you or do we rent it?
We have a consulting practice that will allow you to do that. We generally consult larger institutions to doing that. So most of the ticket sizes we're doing, if you're looking to buy, $500,000 and higher of land, we would help consult you on that in terms of how to do it. And that's anywhere from how to set up your wallets, how to secure the land, build it, things like that we can assist on. Or we can just rent you the land. So we have the ability to do both.
From what I know, it's different prices depending on the location, right?
Yeah. So within the metaverses, it's divided up via neighborhoods. So there's a fashion district. There's a casino area. It's called Las Vegas City in Decentraland. There's a museum district. And various companies can set up in different places. And so the way land is sold and purchased in the metaverses is a lot like the physical world. There's a listing service you can list your land on, and you can have an ask price and somebody can bid you on it. It depends on the size of the land, and it can also depend on your neighbors. And so in Sandbox, somebody paid $450,000 to be neighbors with Snoop Dogg. He's replicating his mansion there to hold VIP parties. The reason why that is an interesting concept in the metaverse is when you're there and you're looking around, you see the building you're going into, but you also see other buildings around you and you can see people walking around. And so it's natural human nature to sort of, hey, what else is around here? Even though you can teleport in some of these, generally people like to go to a neighborhood and wander around. If you are next to Snoop Dogg's mansion, you could hypothetically set up a store or something else and be the beneficiary of the traffic that he's generating. And it's the same thing in places like Decentraland. Samsung has a store, JP Morgan, Sotheby's. There's all kinds of different things that are set up. And even during our fashion show, people were setting up around the fashion show because they knew that there would be some ancillary traffic that they might be able to attract from people walking around the neighborhood.
It seems from our conversation right now, the metaverse is very attractive to business owners or brands that would be able to advertise on there. What about people like me who don't have a business and I don't really have the need to advertise anything? How can I take part in the economy within the metaverse?
That's a great question. So there are ways you could, for example, set up and advertise your podcast and even show it and link to episodes, right? That's a good way to access a new demographic. You could, out of interest, you could collect things like wearables. If you connect it to your MetaMask wallet and you can buy things that you can wear or you can resell. Not everything has to be about commerce. There's places in the metaverse that are like amusement parks with merry-go-rounds and things. You could meet friends there. This was very cool. My wife saw this. We were wandering around and she goes, that place looks familiar. What is that? So I sort of clicked on it, and it's a club called, I think it's called Amnesia. And Amnesia is a club in Ibiza. What's happened is that they struck a deal with Decentraland to replicate the club. And on weekends, they will stream in music and you can meet people there and you can dance with your avatar. Another vertical we're looking at actually related to that is going to be potentially a dating vertical. Have you ever seen the show Love is Blind?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so that's where people date behind a wall. So they never actually see each other until the end. But I was thinking there might be an entire demographic from around the world of people that want to date that don't necessarily need to see each other, but they can do things like go to museums, they can send each other flower NFTs. So there's a whole social aspect to here to what's going on. We're talking to lots of celebrities, musical artists about things like comedy clubs, about movie previews. So you can create a big screen and you can show if there's a new James Bond movie coming out or there's the new Batman movie. What a great way to advertise to a global audience by being able to show previews in different languages for people within the metaverse.
So you have invested in 10 different metaverses. I personally think that's a lot. There's too many. How
Yeah.
how do you think this is going to play out? Are there going to be more? How do we know which metaverse to go to?
There are hundreds of metaverses under development right now. In my opinion, this will play out like social media. There'll be some people that like Facebook, Instagram, other people that like TikTok or Snapchat, some people that will use LinkedIn. The various metaverses will find their niche and they will cater to a certain demographic. Some will be shopping based, some might be music based, some might be education or work based. But there's room for many to survive, just like there is in the video game business or in the social media platform area. They will find their niche. That said, many of them will fail. Just like you had in the social media, if you remember Friendster or MySpace, and there's a whole bunch of other ones, there's lots that won't survive. Our job is to make sure we're doing the homework, researching and finding the best ones and being able to invest in those. But you're right, there is a lot of them. And my prediction is people won't be talking about it as the metaverse. It's just going to replace the way we do things today. So whether that's socializing, going to a concert or shopping, it's just going to be a gradual upgrade to using metaverses for those functions.
Because I know some metaverses have like the actual, like our physical world on on the
Yeah.
metaverse, right?
There will be many that have the physical world. And I think what's interesting about the physical world ones is it's virtual tourism. And so we've invested in one of those called Super World. And what's cool about it is if you go in, let's say you're with your family and you want to visit the Taj Mahal. Now, I may never make it to the Taj Mahal, but it is one of the great wonders of the world. I can go there and do some virtual tourism and walk around and view it in a sense that's deeper and more immersive than just a website. Here's another example of where real world replication makes sense. And I've seen this as well through another company. This was a real estate leasing company. And what they're doing is they're replicating office buildings,
Mm.
expensive office buildings. And the one that I saw specifically was in Washington, D.C., where you could go in and it's got some of the highest price per square foot in the country in terms of rent. And you could go in and take a look at the office space around you, size it up. You can see the dimensions, everything else. You could walk through the building, take the elevator down. You could see the courtyard. How far is it to the nearest restaurant? How far is it to the nearest park? How far is it to public transportation? It's being used as a tool for prospective tenants to use. Let's say if the tenant is located in New York, they're looking to expand, to be able to make a decision on that building that's almost far better than actually being there and trying to, because you can do everything from your computer and see, is this a desirable location for you and your employees?
I've also heard that we can possibly get an NFT when we purchase, like, let's say, a house here in the physical world.
Yep. I think that's a gimmick, to be honest. I don't know why anybody would need that. I would say nobody should buy a physical piece of real estate because you might get an NFT with it. NFTs have value because of the supply and demand that people have for something based on scarcity and various other things. There's not necessarily any real extra value attributed to that other than to say, hi, I have an NFT of my house. I try and ignore that and look at the long-term value of this technology, which is, will you be able to assign things like in the real world to NFT technology, other pieces of art? Is it ways of tracing things like, movies or building the metaverse? There's so many great applications for this that we just haven't even begun to explore. My guess is in 3 years, people will no longer really even use the word metaverse anymore. How about remote learning or workplace training? It's just going to be ubiquitous with how we use the internet. You're just going to say, I'm going to go and do these things, and it'll be done in a metaverse environment. I often say we're making history here because we don't quite know what this is going to look like. Just like 30 years ago, we didn't quite know what the internet was going to look like. Today, we take it for granted. But I remember, when the internet first started coming out in 95, there was a lot of people who were like, "This is just a fad. This is going away. This has no use at all, except for people looking at pictures." Look at how we use the internet today. It's used for every single type of consumer technology, pretty much relies on the internet. Everything.
I want to dive deeper into that. Sailing through uncharted waters, you decided to get into Bitcoin and now into the metaverse. How do you navigate through being in a place where not everyone is accepting or know about what you're even presenting or what you're believing in?
I do my research. I do my homework. Right now, the borrowing and lending and mortgaging of assets in the crypto world is tricky. It's going through regulatory oversight, and I would caution people against doing that. Crypto is very volatile, and make sure you do your homework because it's when you're dealing with physical real estate, the prices tend to be far more stable over the long term. But in the metaverse, it's yet to be determined. I invest in things that I see a macro way. I see the macro growth, where I see the potential of what's happening without having to take specific bets. There's no question in my mind that the metaverse is the next iteration of social media, the next iteration of gaming, the next iteration of how we shop and how advertisers and brands reach us. Like in my mind, I see that very clearly. But I don't spend all my time trying to convince people because for a lot of people, they won't be convinced. When we first bought that plot of land in Decentraland in the fashion district, there was 80% positive reception and 20% people who thought this was a huge waste of money. Why would anybody spend money on things that only exist digitally? And for many people, if something doesn't exist physically, if it doesn't have weight, it doesn't have value. And I always say to those people, I'm like, well, the internet doesn't actually have weight. Are you telling me the internet doesn't have value? 7 out of the top 10 companies in the world rely on the internet, yet nobody owns the internet. It's just a bit of a transom that a lot of people are unable to cross. And I don't try to convince people either. I think you get it or you don't get it.
And what advice do you have for people who are for Web3, who are trying to understand and they're actually trying to, explain to their family members or their peers that, this is the future, let's learn together?
Yeah, it's a tough task for people. And I think rather than trying to explain it, it's just a function of by example. And if you see the impact of the internet, the same people that said the internet is a fad, it's going away, are the same people that said Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, it's going to disappear. Bitcoin's now on its 13th year. And it's the same people that say Web3 is a scam and it's not going to do anything. And so there's always going to be a subset of the population that is skeptical and unwilling to accept or look at change. Society moves forward regardless.
One last question. What does success mean to you?
Success means, health and health in various matters. So, I remember when I was an investment banker, there was a lot of whining and dining. And for, often, especially towards the early of my career, when, whining and dining and also working long hours. And although I was making at the time what seemed to me to be a lot of money, I was working, 12 hours a day. My personal relationships were suffering. I felt like parts of my health were suffering. And all my free time was devoted to, again, whining and dining with clients. As I've evolved my thinking on that, success goes beyond monetary rewards. It has to do with being happy, has to do with having a happy family, feeling healthy and fulfilled with what you're doing, feeling challenged. That to me is what success is about. And the biggest other part of success is freedom of your time, the ability to sort of choose what I want to work on, who I want to spend time with, which is really important, especially as you get older.
Especially for like this industry right now, a lot of people are going in it to see how can I make money,
Right.
as an indicator of Web3 being successful or how I can achieve success through Web3. But I think today through our conversation, you've like shared so many different projects, opportunities, being able to socialize and build community. And I think that's something that we should focus more on as well as we look more into the industry and how it grows.
For sure. For sure.
Thank you so much today for your time, Andrew. I really love learning more about the metaverse with you.
Thank you. Great questions. So appreciate you having me on.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Well Versed. If you enjoyed learning with me today, please make sure to like and subscribe. Have a blessed day and see you in the next one.